Hello friends! Let me introduce myself. My name is Hajaroh. You can call me Hajar. In this opportunity, I would like to present about the analysis This is Story by Edward Albee based on theory.
Story summary. This is story. I will read it. One Sunday afternoon, Peter, an upper middle class family man and publishing executive in his mid 40s, is reading a book on a bench. Jerry, a sloppily dressed transit in his late 30s, approaches and announces that he is coming from the Central Park Zoo. Despite Peter's apparent reluctance to chat, Jerry strikes up in conversation. Jerry's forward personality quickly begins to annoy Peter. He points out that Peter will likely get cancer from smoking and implies that Peter is emasculated because he has cats instead of dogs. Jerry continues to ask Peter questions about his life, his job, and his interests. When Peter finally begins to return Jerry's questions, Jerry tells him about his miserable apartment in a flop house on the Upper West Side. He describes his unsavory neighbor and the junk that compresses his possessions, including two empty picture frames. When Peter asks him about the picture frames, Jerry explains that he is completely alone in life. His parents died when he was young, and his only significant romantic relationship was a short relation he had with another boy when he was a teenager. Jerry promised to tell Peter about his trip to the zoo, but is sidetracked into telling Peter about his landlady, a drunken woman who constantly propositions him. When she got a dog, Jerry tried to befriend it, but the dog responded only by attacking him. After repeated and repudiated attempts at friendship, Jerry decided to murder the dog by feeding it a poisoned hamburger patty. After this sickened the dog, it eventually recovered and began to simply leave him alone. Peter finds this story extremely disturbing and wonders why Jerry told it to him. Jerry explained that he tries to befriend animals as a gateway to befriending other people. Peter tries to accuse himself, but Jerry triggers him to keep him from leaving. He then tries to force Peter to move from the bench and punches him when he refuses, although Peter initially realizes that Jerry's behavior is absurd. He gradually becomes more possessive of the bench. Jerry pulls a knife and insists the man fight for it. This shocks Peter, who refuses to fight as a gesture of peace. Jerry gives the knife to Peter, who holds the knife out to protect himself. Suddenly, Jerry charges Peter and imposes himself on the knife. Although he is instantly hysterical, Jerry soon calms down and accepts his death. He even thanks Peter, using his last energy to wipe Peter's fingerprints off the knife handle so that Peter will not be accused of him murder. Peter takes his book and dashes off before passers-by notice that Jerry is dying.
Origin. The Zoo Story was written by Edward Albee in 1958, although at the beginning of its history, the Zoo Story didn't sell well in America, so its first performance was held in Berlin, Germany on September 28, 1959. Finally, the zoo story was staged on Broadway on January 14, 1960. Based on theory. Number one, here I use the theory of Karl Marx theory, alienation, and number two is queer theory, gender identity, and number one, why I use the theory of Karl Marx theory. Karl Marx theory, alienation is one of the important concepts of Karl thought Marx in criticizing the capitalist system. And then queer theory is a theory about homosexuals which suggests that sexual orientation is not only seen from one aspect, such as gender, masculine or feminine, or sex, male or female. Sexual orientation uses both aspects to identify a person. Issue formed from theory. Karl Marx theory alienation. Number one, Jerry and Peter's contrasting backgrounds. Number two, the main character in this alienation theory is Jerry, where alienation encourages Jerry to commit suicide. And the relationship between the zoo story and Carl's theory are Jerry, who was born into a lower middle class family, lives alone in a shabby flat with his crazy dog and doesn't have a steady job. Then, from his sexual orientation, he already felt alien or different, so he can mingle with other people. Then, when he tries to be friend, the apartment owner's dog, he gets badly treated. Alienation prompts Jerry to commit suicide. Next, queer theory. Number one, Jerry is homosexual. Conclusion: the relationship between the two theories above are Jerry's 5 consequences of sexual perversion. The first, feeling lonely, then aggressive temperament, become a murderer, and commit suicide. Thank you very much, and that was my presentation.